Before I remove this from its package, let me just say, fuck Marvel, fuck Disney, fuck anyone involved with Spider-Man. They all deserve to burn in hell indefinitely. This is Spider-Woman, The Complete Collection, Volume 4. See, it's related. If you didn't know what the dealio is with Spider-Man at the minute, my top advice would be to ignore it. I'm probably going to piss and moan about it in this video. I didn't even know where I would begin. They just keep shitting on Peter Parker and hating Mary James so much. This is a book that liked Peter Parker and it liked Mary James, and they got to have a happy ending where they were married and grew hard together and had a cool daughter called Spider-Woman. This collects issues 51 through to 67, and I think I have actually read some of these. This means it is likely another 2, maybe even 3 volumes before we can finish this series off. Cover-wise, this is the best one, I think. Great cover, good pick, good choice for the front. I am not crazy at all about the title placement. After some research though, the title was in the centre on the original cover. Doesn't mean that I like it though. My history with this character is these are trades, collecting a second series, Amazing Spider-Woman. These are great. I went back and I read the first 12 or so issues of the series, and there is a couple of issues maybe in this that I read. So yeah, the idea is that Spider-Woman is the teenage daughter of Peter Parker and Mary James. Really, really great looking art. Oh, and here is Dark Devil. After pointing him out every time, I'm obligated to. Dark Devil is my favourite character from the McTwo universe. His backstory is convoluted, unfortunately, but just in general, really great character and design. I am still a bit upset that they didn't include the Dark Devil miniseries in the last one. Maybe they will do a Spider-Woman companion afterwards that has that and a few of the other Spider-Woman related McTwo miniseries. I didn't know though. I think it's lucky that we have managed to get to volume 4 here. I was expecting these collections to stop after a maximum of 2. This issue focuses on Black Cat's daughter. Cute stuff with her becoming like Spider-Woman's sidekick. There is the superior version of Kid 90s 4. He has totally different powers. He merged with the magic mace. Much better than the version they introduced in the main canon. And I do think this might be the story that I read. Yeah, because it brings 90s 4 back. Yeah, Black Star is there. I think this has to be the one that I read. Because it ties in with Tom Falcon's Forerunner a bit. This green guy here is Seth. Ho, 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 now I have a machine gun. I think with Peter Parker and Mary James... Here's the thing. Mary James is not my favourite Spider-Man love interest. I am in love with Black Cat. She was my first proper crush ever. But as a Spider-Man reader, someone who has read Spider-Man for years and years, I have read 3 or 4 decades worth of every Spider-Man comic. And I am willing to concede that, yeah, Peter Parker and Mary James, a great couple, and they belong together. There are more issues that feature Peter Parker and Mary James as a loving and perfect couple than there probably are appearances of Black Cat. I am willing to accept and adapt to comics. Most of the fake fanboy writers are not. They are still hung up on the fucking dead girlfriend who has been dead for ages, and the only notable thing about her was she died. Modern comic writers, most of them, are not fans of comic books. They didn't read comic books. There is a huge quantity of fantastic Marvel comics from the 80s, and they didn't care because their love for comics is some nostalgia rather than actual appreciation. They didn't care if Spider-Man moved on, that Spider-Man grew up, that Spider-Man is not the same character he was in the 70s and hasn't been for a while. Those comics didn't count to them, and they are unflinching in their resolve to not adhere to them, or better yet, to decanonize anything outside of their very narrow understanding of Spider-Man. Take, for example, the redneck writing Spider-Man now. He has been trying and failing at writing Spider-Man for 20 years. He was always on the second or the third tier Spider-Man title. In all that time, he has never once conceded that his take on Spider-Man or his idea of what the character is shit and needs reworking. So we have that miserable shit we have now with Mary James not being his love interest and having stepkids with some other cunt. Fuck, this isn't even looking at this anymore. I just want to bitch and moan about Spider-Man and the 70s loving hard men who ruined comics for me and, in my opinion, for everyone else. I have this theory, and I think it is a very, very legitimate thing. There is a generation shift in comic book writers every 10 or so years. Right now, we are seeing for the first time ever some actual fondness for the 90s. Marvel are doing a lot of stuff related to their 90s output, and the reason for that is we are at the point now where the new creators coming into the industry were reading comics in the 90s. Just like how in the mid-90s we got the influx of creators who loved the 70s and stopped reading them after the 70s. However, we missed a decade. Around about 2006 or 2007, we should have started getting the next wave of creators, people who read comics during the 80s. A time when the Marvel output was at an all-time high, except we didn't get any of that. The generation that read 70s comics refused to let up and kept control of comics for another decade. And so we never ever got anyone new coming in who was a fan of some of the best Marvel comics ever. Instead, we got more of the 70s shit. Spider-Man's marriage getting retconned, more Fennec shite, rehash after rehash of 70s stories like Korvac Dallas and the Avengers, Defenders War. Tom Beavort stayed in charge. He is still in charge now. Martin Quaid kept writing. He is still writing now, etc. I'm not saying after a decade people should be rotated out forever, but actually, yeah, something like Tom Beavort, he absolutely should move on. He should be forced to move on. Nobody should rest on a title for 10 years. You are refusing to let any new voice into the mix. You're refusing to let a title move on. You are refusing to accept that your very narrow-minded definition and idea of what the Avengers is might not be the only idea of what the Avengers is. He has ogged the Avengers for 25 years. That is too long. Nobody should hold on to anything that long. Marvel say that they are about diversity. But what about diversity of idea? There is no diversity in the Avengers, in the loosest sense of the word, because there has been one pathetic hard man in charge for 25 years who hasn't read an Avengers comic for entertainment since 1978. To get back to Spider-Man, look, they're having another little baby. Isn't that adorable? Yeah, Spider-Man is fucked now. Nickelback Spencer, I still can it and will not forgive him for Captain America. But Nickelback Spencer approached Spider-Man as a fan. He wasn't just a fan of a certain Spider-Man. He seemed to appreciate Spider-Man throughout the ages. He fixed some stuff that needed fixing, and he clearly wanted to have Spider-Man and Mary James get back together, but was cock-blocked by Marvel. And that is the type of writer that should be writing Spider-Man. Someone who has a real love for the character and his history, not a redneck who has slowly grinded his way to the main title, not from a deep-rooted love of the character, but because he wants to remake Spider-Man as his version of Spider-Man. Yeah, my theory is we missed out on a decade or so of potentially brilliant comics inspired by people reading in the 80s, because these pathetic men won't fucking move on. The 90s shit isn't going to last. It'll soon start becoming creators coming in who were inspired by these same sad men who are still working in the industry today. And the overall 70s agendas will never fucking end. It'll be the same old shite. Oh, Jordan Albert is the main and only Green Lanterns. Oh, Barney Allen is the main and only Flask. Cyclist and the Phoenix are true love. Wolfman and the Phoenix are true love. Iron Man is an alky. Captain America does not like his country and is in love with Sharon Carter. The Tiny Titans need a Robert and a Kid Flask and a Wonder Girl and an Aqualad. Spider-Man was never married. Spider-Man never left high school. Spider-Man, his first girlfriend, the dead one, was the best one. Who is Mary James? It's the same fucking shit, and it will only ever be the same fucking shit because comic books are ran by unrelenting pieces of shit who hate the medium and have never really been readers or fans. Fuck Marvel and their fucking deplorable directions for Spider-Man. Fuck Disney and their fucking appalling Spider-Man films that twats think are brilliant. Fuck everyone who thinks Spider-Man's best girlfriend is the dead one and that he is fucking getting too hard. Spider-Man was and could be brilliant, but he never will be when you have a fucking redneck making Spider-Man despicable, or a piece of shit wanting to skin Mary James alive in his crap Excellent Men crossover. This trade paperback is not a consolation. It's just a reminder of how unfulfilling and unsatisfying Marvel's current Spider-Man comics are. Rest in peace, Spider-Man. They hardly knew you, unlike the actual readers like me. 7 thumbs up for this trade.